welcome to the Science Faction Podcast, where science meets fact meets fiction.
This is Science Faction for the week of June 30th, 2025. I'm one of your hosts, Stephen Dominguez, and with me today, two individuals, just rocking out.
Yo, I'm Benjamin Daniel Lawless, and I got the horns going.
Devin Kraft.
Oh, Devin's excited. Did you just do some crack? What happened? That's the most excited I've heard you in years.
Yeah.
And that's the end of it.
And that was it.
All right.
Thanks for calling it out there, Steven.
Doing this during work, I mean, it's like if we do it at night, I'm too tired. If we do it on the weekend, I'm busy. And then we do it during work, which I have set aside this space to do work. But not to do work. Sorry, that's the whole point. And then it's during work, and I got an email on something like I've been waiting for like a week, and I just got the email, so I'm reading it. I'm curious what it says because I've been waiting for it. And then that's when the podcast starts. So I'm like, it's tough.
It's a catch-22.
Everything's awful. Okay, well, Devin, you read your email. Ben, how's it going, man?
And
I'm doing all right.
Of course, they got it wrong. I'm like, I've been telling you in literally 10 emails, I've been telling you what to do. And they come back and it says something that doesn't make sense. I'm like, well, no, you didn't even listen to what I was saying. Like, it's actually not even as hard as you're making it. If you would just listen to what I've been saying, now I have to email you back, and you're not going to get, and there's a deadline to this, and you're not going to get it done by the deadline, even though I've been telling you literally for months what to do. So anyway.
You're dadding all over the place, man. You got to dad your kids. You got to dad people emailing you. You got to dad Ben.
Nobody gets respect.
Rodney Dangerfield was onto something. I'll tell you what. All right. There's a link here. Ben, tell us about the link. What's been going on in your real life?
All right. So, for the last 6 months, I've been keeping a secret, and this secret has all of a sudden coalesced into a new book. And this is a book called Adieu, Plain Snake, which is, well, it's my ode to accidental poems created through Wordle, the New York Times online game.
Mm-hmm.
And for the last year and a half, every time that I had a Wordle answer that made like an accidental poem, the first one being Adieu, Plain Snake, which kind of reminds me of Samuel L. Jackson from Snakes on a Plane a bit. And it was like, oh, wow, I've got to take a screenshot of this. This is really great. And then it kept on happening where my answers would be, would be kind of profound, would be like a little story. So like I had one that was a young heart skate.
Oh,
which is just delightful. Delightful.
That is delightful.
And so about 6 months ago, I was asked to be a featured reader at a poetry reading where we were supposed to have accompaniment, like have musicians play music to our poems or dancing or whatever. All they said was accompaniment. And I asked a few of my friends and my son if they would play music. And they all, to a T, was like, absolutely not. Not going to happen. So instead of saying no, I pivoted. I was like, well, what about the accompaniment that comes with like learning to write with something else? And I looked through my my screenshots folder on my Photos app, and I had 96 of these screenshots from Wordle that I'd saved over like a year and a half. So I went through, curated a bunch of them, got them down a little bit, and then edited them a little bit, and then wrote a bunch of like interstitial, I guess you could say like stories or musing about the creative process and about like for example, at one point I give a missive to all time travelers out there. If you're a time traveler out there and you want to like cheat at Wordle's past, I can help you. Just contact me, prove you are a time traveler, and I will give you the dates for all of these Wordle answers. Success is yours for the taking. And thus, in creating enough material to go for my presentation that I just had yesterday, I have an entire book that's like everything I had from the presentation and more. And the presentation went really well. I'm intending to record it and put it on YouTube. So link to that whenever that happens.
Okay.
But yeah, and the entire event went really well, despite just about everything technical failing right at the last minute, except for my stuff.
Oh,
and,
great.
But yeah, I mean, it all came together, and everybody watching it didn't know anything was wrong. And here I was, like the fool that had said, "Oh, hey, you didn't plan on having a computer there? You're just going to bring a disc with some videos?" Like, sure, I'll have my computer already hooked up to the system. Like, the audio didn't work until like literally the last second when somebody pulled out a Bluetooth speaker. Yeah, it was wild, but that has been a lot of work for 10 minutes of a presentation. However, once I got it all together, it changed from being this like silly little project that I was working on that I really didn't have a lot of faith in, but then it became something I'm like, oh wow, now that this is all together, it really, like, I think certain people are really going to dig it. Like, if you find that short, like exceptionally short stories that are 2 to 5 words long, all with 5-letter words, if that intrigues you, then I have the book for you. If you know anybody that likes Wordle, if you like Wordle or you know anybody, this book allows you to kind of think about Wordle in a different way, because when you're considering making a story out of what you're the answers you're putting in, and it just kind of accidentally happens, you're playing the game differently than if you're just trying to get, the lowest number of words possible to it.
Right.
And it becomes more fun. Like, you change the rules and the game becomes more fun.
That's a good way to think about life. Change the rules.
Right.
And things become more fun.
Yeah, indeed.
I gotta say, I'm impressed that you're already number 1043 in computers and internet humor, according to Amazon.
Yeah, gotta drive those numbers up.
You get those numbers up, man.
Yeah.
So there will be a link to Amazon, it looks like. In our show notes. So if you want to check this out, give a click, give a check out. Look at this amazing cover that I assume that you created, Ben, with this
it's my
snake. It's fantastic.
It's got a snake, an airplane, and a phone all on the cover.
I mean, what else do you need?
Right? Yeah. And like, what's kind of wild is that it's not AI generated. This was definitely, like, it was me taking freely available stock photography and illustrations and kind of mashing them all together along with the initial screenshot I had taken. And yeah, just kind of it was a fun project. And like, if it brings anybody else joy, that's great. But it brought me a lot of joy. So
yeah,
that's you can get it on Amazon for $10, on Kindle for $7. It'll be on Apple Books as well, once that process completes. And lots of fun. 5-letter words that create accidental poems.
If you want a signed copy, I'll mail your copy to me. I'll sign it, and then I'll send it back to you.
Yeah. You can add a little note in there like, I haven't read this yet, but Ben says it's really good. Stephen E. Dominguez.
Exactly. I'll write that exact thing in there.
I'll sign your books then.
You should. That's amazing, man. I'm glad that you're finding an outlet for your creativity here.
Well, right now,
fantastic.
Like, what else what else can we do?
Not a lot.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't mean to bring it down, but
No.
this is kind of my a little bit of just an attempt at really thumbing my nose a little bit at this reading, but like taking it seriously in how I thumbed my nose at it, and it became something tremendously interesting. And then, but really thumbing my nose at life. Like, you're trying to get me down. Like, I just made a book of poems that are all 5-letter words strung together.
Take that, universe.
come at me.
Come at me, bro.
Yeah. But like, I definitely don't want this to be Vogon poetry, so like it has enough in there that is not just that.
Yeah.
There's plenty else to it. So enjoy. Thank you. That's
all right. Well,
that.
good night, everyone.
Yeah.
Just commercial for Ben.
Devin, how have you been, Devin?
Pretty good.
Right on.
Maybe a little busy, stressed out. We saw we went to the theater. I took the kids and we saw the new Pixar movie, Elio.
We're supposed to go see that next weekend with kids and stuff. How was it?
Cool. It was pretty good.
Neat.
Yeah, I'd say, for Pixar, maybe about on average. Not like stellar, nothing that would, makes me think it's like the best Pixar movie ever, but it's, the usual high quality Pixar movie.
What is the best Pixar movie ever?
It's WALL-E.
And why is it WALL-E? Yeah, exactly. Cool.
So, yeah, that was fun.
Your kids liked it?
Yeah, they liked it. Nolan, he doesn't really get afraid of things as much anymore, like watching TV and being afraid of stuff, but he did get a little afraid of this movie. And it was kind of an interesting thing he was afraid of. It wasn't like a big scary monster or like characters necessarily being in peril. There's an element of cloning in the movie where the main character gets cloned, and then another character later. Try not to spoil like why that happens or what it does for the plot, but just the idea that there were clones really seemed to freak him out. And I'm not exactly sure why, and I didn't really want to bring it up and ask him again, but that really, like, the idea of, I guess, there being like someone who's an imposter, or I don't know exactly what it was, but that
oh man, show him Invasion of the Body Snatchers and see if he freaks out.
I know there's so many.
Yeah.
Oh,
no, I know, like, I get you that WALL-E is an incredible film, but I don't know, for my money, Coco is
Coco's really good.
That one's kind of
Coco's good. No,
I
mean, they're different. Like, one's sci-fi, the other one's like fairy tale myth. So they're very different types of stories.
Yes,
but yeah.
I did like Coco. I would probably put it in the upper half of Pixar movies, but for me, it didn't really resonate as much as WALL-E. But
okay, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, Devin's a real wall head, if you will.
Yeah. If I stuck with like building R2, like more R2s, I probably would have eventually built a WALL-E.
Dude, you should build a WALL-E. 100% you should build a WALL-E. Oh my gosh.
Life-size
that would
WALL-E.
be cool.
Yeah, man. Have that thing running
I have
around.
WALL-E on my desk right now. I'm looking at WALL-E and Eva next to each other right now.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful. I mean, build an Eva too. Build them both.
Well, they were the cake toppers for our wedding.
Yeah.
Right.
I know that because I was there. Oh my gosh. Well, speaking of families and being there, it was before times. I had to deal with 2 birthday parties this weekend.
What?
Yeah, because the pool changed its hours. So get this. So my youngest daughter, she just turned 7. Her birthday was on Saturday, and it's hard when you have a kid whose birthday is in summer. You guys might know something about this. Because you cannot just invite friends from school because school's not happening. Like you could, but like she wanted some people. And so like our schools have this policy of like, well, if you invite one, you have to invite them all. Like, otherwise it's not fair. And I was like, okay,
Right.
I get you. But she wanted only girls at her birthday party for some reason. She didn't want to invite any boys except for her little cousin. He could come, and he did, and it was great. So anyways, we made invitations, handed them out last week of school, which was, a month ago, more than a month ago. And we didn't get any RSVPs, like, at all.
Oh.
And it's like, it's because it's right in the middle of summer, and like people are doing stuff.
Everybody's
It's hard.
traveling.
People are traveling, or parents are working and they've already got their childcare, and it's like, it can be a hassle. Like, I get it. So then we like contacted, like, we're like, hey, who would you really want to come out of all the friends that you invited? And she named off like 3 different names, and luckily those are people that I had phone numbers for. And so I was able to reach out and be like, hey, are you going to come? Also, the party was originally on Saturday because that's when the pool said they'd be open, but they have since changed their schedule and they're closed on Saturday, but they'll be open on Sunday. So also the invitation that we gave out is wrong, and it's going to be the day after. So it was just a big cluster. So Saturday, her real birthday instead was just kind of a hangout day. And her grandparents came up and did some birthday stuff. And then on Sunday, so it was like, birthday all day, because it's her birthday. Yeah. And she had an agreement with her older sister that her older sister had to play whatever she wanted to play because it was her birthday. And so that was the whole thing, which turned out fine. And then the next day is like, all right, now it's time for your birthday party. And two of the 3 friends that said that they would come showed up, so that was nice. And then luckily, the older sister Emily, she has friends that my youngest Haley also believes are her friends, and so she invited them as well. And so actually, more of Emily's friends came than Haley's friends, but it all worked out. We went to the park. We had pizza. It was fairy themed. We did fairy stuff all over the place, and then walked over to the pool and did pool stuff for a couple hours, and that was that. And it worked out pretty well. It's just, instead of all of that happening on one day, it was spread out to 2 days, and so all weekend was just birthday party.
Is this the pool at the high school?
No, this is in Templeton.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
all right.
The public pool.
Yeah.
So like we didn't have to we didn't rent out the pool or anything. It was just free public swim, and we just went as a group. And we paid for it. It was a couple bucks. It was all good. Right. So that's fine. In other sci-fi terms, I started playing a game called The Alters, and it's a Gamepass game. I'm not going to get too deep into it, except for I'm going to talk about the concept, which is insane. Game starts, you're in some kind of drop pod dropping onto a planet, and you crash down, you're released, and you go to find the pods for your team, and everyone else is dead. And you're like, okay, you're on some alien planet, you're in a spacesuit, because that's the only way you can survive. And then you go over to your base, which is like a giant wheel, which is very weird. But you go in there, and here's the concept for the game. You're the only one on this planet. However, the company sent you there to find this mineral, this thing that's, life-changing. You find some of it, and they're like, cool. Use it, put it in the quantum computer, which is a whole nother thing, and have it analyze your life, and then we can pick a different branching version of your life, and then make a clone of that alternate person, and keep doing that, and that's going to be your crew.
Oh. Oh,
so
geez.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
Huh. Sounds like Devin's kids should not play this.
No, it's all clones. It's clones all the way down. Um, it's super interesting because you go to this computer and there's other like story elements happening, but there's a timeline of important things in your character's life. And there's like 20 points on this timeline from being a kid all the way up to leaving on this mission. And the first time you go in there, like the computer's like computer, and then it's like it found a point, like a branching point in your timeline, and then it follows the rest of the timeline from this branching point, where that person turned into, because you're a builder, whatever that means. Like that was your role for this space mission, is being a builder. Well, the first thing that happens, something breaks, you can't fix it, so this quantum computer figures out, oh, if you had changed your life at this point, you would have turned into a mechanic. All right, let's clone you, and infuse this clone or whatever with this alternate version of you, and then they come out as if they had lived this whole alternate life, and they pop out like, what are you doing here? Why do you look like me? And there's all like this clone existentialism, and they're like, their attitude is different, and then you do that a few more times, like is when whenever a thing pops up that you need this specific role, like a scientist. All right, at one point in your life, did things have to change for you to have become a scientist? And sometimes it's a branch off of another branch, that kind of thing. The cover art shows like maybe 10 of these guys, like all very different, but it's all, the same person, but it's not. Really interesting concept. Because the game, like the gameplay itself, that's like the story stuff. The game itself is like this exploration base builder. Like you build different rooms and you go out in the world and you find minerals and you mine them and you bring them back and you build stuff. And it's like a colony builder, but it's wrapped around this really super interesting science fiction based alternate timeline cloning nonsense. It's really cool. And if you have Gamepass, you have it. It's part of Xbox's like Gamepass thing. So it's available on your Xbox, on your PC. I don't know if it's on the PS stuff or Nintendo, but I know it's on. It's I think it's like a Microsoft thing for now.
You can get it on Steam.
You can get it on Steam. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, because PC. So there you go. I recommend that for its crazy nonsense. I've barely played the game enough to like just have a few clones. I don't have like a full grasp yet, but one of these alters, these alternate versions of yourself, had their arm amputated at some point in their life. And then you clone them and they have an arm, and they're like, yo, my arm is in constant pain. And you're like, why? Oh. And they're like, I don't know why. It's like reverse phantom limb or something. And so then you have to make choices. And like one of the choices is allow them to take painkillers. If you do that, they start making mistakes while they're working, because you have to assign them all jobs. Like the mechanic works on keeping the base running, right? And so like you have to have a little bank of materials, and they use that bank of materials to make sure nothing breaks. Well, if this character, if you allow them to take these painkillers, they start making mistakes at work and start getting injured. Well, then you can tell them to stop doing that, to stop, like, okay, you can't take painkillers anymore. You shouldn't be this shouldn't be hurting. Like, what's the deal? And then you wake up one morning and it says emergency in the kitchen, and you go and they have removed their arm to make the pain go away. And so there are like some crazy, very adult themed, of course, things that happen. So yeah, I recommend it. Alters, check it out. Anything else we want to talk about before we move on to our next segment? I'll take that as a no. Let's move on.
We're good.
Let's move on to future or now.
Now.
Thank you. You know what? What? Good. Huh?
You're welcome.
Oh.
You're welcome, Stephen.
What are the words? You're welcome. I don't know. It's been a while.
Yeah,
since we
it's
watched
just
Moana.
you're welcome over and over.
That's
again.
all it is, right? Yeah. It's just you're welcome. The gardeners are here. They're not supposed to show up until Tuesday. They're This summer, you guys, it's just,
Dude.
oh boy. All right. You know what? I'm going to keep talking for a minute here. I'm going to call this, this is now, and also kind of the past, but also now. I'm going to call it Keep On Trippin'. This
Into the future.
Thank you. That was the joke.
I know my songs.
This article comes from Science Daily. It was published on June 29th, and the title is Buried for 23,000 Years. These footprints are rewriting American history. Footprints were found on the ancient lake beds of white sands. They may prove that humans lived in North America 23,000 years ago, much earlier than previously believed. A new study using radiocarbon dating mud bolsters earlier findings, making it the third line of evidence pointing to this revised timeline. So this is pretty neat. This whole thing started in 2012 with somebody named Vance Holiday, which is, I swear that is a cowboy name, but they are not a cowboy. Vance Holiday jumped at the invitation to go do geology at New Mexico's White Sands. The landscape just west of Alamogordo looks surreal. Endless rolling dunes of fine beige gypsum left behind by ancient seas. It's one of the most unique geologic features in the world. So let's see. They are University of Arizona archaeologists and geologists, and they accepted this invitation in 2012 to do research in the park. Now, next to the park is a missile range that the U.S. Army uses, and he asked, "Hey, can we go look at the missile range? Because there used to be geology sites over there." And wouldn't you know it, they said okay. So Holiday and a graduate student spent several days examining geologic layers in trenches dug by previous researchers to piece together a timeline for the area. They had no idea that about 100 yards away were footprints preserved in ancient clay and buried under gypsum that would help spark a wholly new theory about when humans arrived in the Americas. Okay, so the tracks showed human activity in the area occurred between 23,000 and 21,000 years ago, a timeline that would upend anthropologists' understanding of when cultures developed in North America. It would make the prints about 10,000 years older than remains found 90 years ago at a site near Clovis, New Mexico.
Oh.
Yeah. Let's see. Critics have spent the last 4 years questioning the 2021 findings, largely arguing that the ancient seeds and pollens in the soil used to date the footprints were unreliable markers. So in order to date things, they have to find things to date, right? A footprint is just a shape of the mud that's there, but there's like I just said, pollen and seeds in the area, and they could date those things. But then they found a new way to date the mud, and this article doesn't go into specifics of exactly what that is, except that this new paper finds that the mud is between 20,700 and 22,400 years old, which correlates with the original findings that the footprints are between 21,000 and 23,000 years old. So this is the third piece of evidence, right? There's the seeds, there's the pollen, and now there's the mud, all showing this range between 20,700 and 23,000 years. It's all in there somewhere. And not only that, two separate research groups now have a total of 55 consistent radiocarbon dates. So it wasn't just one dude saying, "Hey, I found the magic and I dated it and it's great." No, they sent these things off, different labs. It says here three different labs, two separate research groups have tested these things, and they're all coming up with these numbers. That's great. That's what you want to see in science. You want to see different individuals testing different things, and when they all come up with the same results, it's like, okay, this is definitely pointing to something. That's good science. So, quote, "It's a remarkably consistent record," said Holiday, who is now a professor emeritus. How do you say that word?
Emeritus.
Emeritus? I had the wrong
Yes.
emphasis.
Yeah.
A professor emeritus.
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 Yeah, you can do it.
It's so hard. In the School of Anthropology and Department of Geosciences, who has studied the, quote, peopling of the Americas for nearly 50 years, focusing largely on the Great Plains in the Southwest. So, millennia ago, the White Sands were a series of lakes that eventually dried up. Wind erosion piled the gypsum into the dunes that define the area today. The footprints were excavated in the beds of a stream that flowed into one such ancient lake. Quote, the wind erosion destroyed part of the story, so that part is just gone, Holiday said. The rest is buried under the world's biggest pile of gypsum sand. And then also there were some critiques with the study. Holiday acknowledges that the new study doesn't address a question he's heard from critics since 2021. Why are there no signs of artifacts or settlements left behind by those who made the footprints? It's a fair question, Holiday said, and Holiday still does not have a peer-reviewed answer. We just don't know why these things don't exist. Some of the footprints uncovered for the 2021 study were part of trackways that would have taken just a few seconds to walk, Holiday estimates. It's perfectly reasonable, he said, to assume that hunter-gatherers would be careful not to leave behind any resources in such a short time frame. So he's guessing like, hey, look, people were just walking by here. They're not just going to be throwing stuff around as they walk. Like,
they're not modern day. They're not. Oh gosh, they're not littering.
Yeah, these are litter bugs haven't been invented yet. Is the thing.
Yeah.
It also depends on how much stuff they leave behind. For you to find one thing left behind, there's got to be like tens or hundreds actually left behind, and then one might have statistically made it through all this time to be found by us.
Exactly. Just think of like putting something down on the ground for 20,000 years. and it doesn't get blown away, or a dog doesn't come by and chew on it, or all of these other things, hundreds, thousands of things that could happen. Here's another quote here. These people live by their artifacts, and they were made far away from where they can get replacement material. They're not just randomly dropping artifacts. It's not logical to me that you're going to see a debris field. So, I mean, this is probably, it sounds like what he's theorizing with no peer-reviewed evidence, this is just a guess, that these footprints are from between point A and point B, right? If you found point A, you might find debris fields. If you find point B, maybe that was a village or something. But this is the in-between. This is the bit that survived, right? So, yeah. If you find a small chunk of thousands of years from now, you find a small chunk of road, you're like, well, there's no cars around, so obviously this road wasn't used for cars. Like, well, no, it was a between space. Anyways, so yeah, they're theorizing, right? Till you find more evidence, just a theory. But what they do have evidence for is very interesting, and it's, a lot of time more before when they thought it was, which is pretty cool. They pushed it by, what I say, awesome. 10,000 years. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So go indeed. Humans. Maybe we should go back to living like that. Things might be easier. Who knows? Probably not.
Honestly, yeah. Like the things that we enjoy now, much longer lifespans, society, like in whatever shape it is it's in. We still have a society. We still have exactly. we don't have to know everything about like everything that we enjoy. We're blissfully ignorant of the food chain, to Devin's point a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So
my
good times.
My kids asked about like what eats sharks. And I was like, oh, well, nothing really. They're at the top of this food chain. And they're like, what's a food chain? And I was like, well, and so, I just explained what it is in a kid-friendly manner. And they're like, wait a minute. So we're at the top of the food chain? I was like, well, yeah, because nothing hunts us. We hunt everything else. And they're like, but sharks eat people. I was like, sometimes, yes. but it's not part of their natural environment to just eat people. And it was a whole conversation about food chains and whatnot. It was
It's an apex predator.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that.
Well, and I forgot how it came up recently, but also we were talking about how there's fewer, like the further up the food chain you go, there's fewer number of the population because you need what's under them in the food chain to support them. So it takes more resources to support a predator that's higher up the food chain.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
That's why we're using all of the planet's resources.
Well, yeah, and then us, we've learned, we've been able to like hack the system to get way more resources out of it. Not in necessarily a smart way, but in a way that for now supports this explosion of our population.
It is exploding. All right, Ben, take us away. Future or now?
Well, this is definitely future. And really, there's never enough Becky Chambers in my life. Because, in the time that we've been reading A Psalm for the Wild Build, which will be concluding our coverage of that today, I've before that had started and up to this last week, I'd been reading her book, The Galaxy and the Ground Within, which is the final book in the Wayfarers series that she had, the fourth and final book.
Final? Why? How is it a final? Just because she hasn't written anymore, or she said she's done? Or do you even know?
At the end of the book, she has a little note that kind of says like this concludes the Wayfarers series.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, I mean, I don't think that there would be anything preventing more stories from happening in the Wayfarers universe, but
right.
This was her conclusion. And
Excellent.
boy, like every one of her books is so good. We what did we read the novella to be taught if fortunate.
Yeah, To Be Taught If Fortunate.
Yeah. And now we're reading the Monk and Robot first book.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that, all those got me into Wayfarers, which started with the first book, and they all have really cool titles. The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. And then there was A Closed and Common Orbit.
Yep.
Then there was A Record of a Spaceborne Few. And this final one is The Galaxy and the Ground Within. And so the idea behind all of these is that you're not following a single ship or a single crew or a single character throughout all four books. You are following the like societies and how common people live in these spacebound societies, whether they are human or not. In many cases. And so The Galaxy and the Ground Within actually has no humans really within it in the story. It's all extraterrestrials, but they're all different space aliens, different members of the Galactic Commons. And what ends up happening is that so like there's this planet. It's called Gora. It's really unremarkable. The only thing it has going for it is that it's close to more popular worlds, so it becomes a little truck stop, like a stopover for ships jumping between these wormholes that keep all the planets of the Galactic Commons connected. And so there's the 5-hop one stop, which is it's essentially a bed and breakfast. And it's where long haul spacers can stretch their legs, if they have legs, and get fuel, transit, get their transit permits and all their supplies and stuff. And the 5-hop is run by this alien and her sometimes helpful child, who's kind of preteen-ish.
Okay.
But they work hard to provide a little piece of home to everyone passing through. Well, a freak technological failure halts all traffic to and from Gora, which essentially every single one of the satellites around the planet starts to fall planetside.
Oops.
Yeah. And so a bunch of different, these three strangers that are visiting the 5-hop one stop, they are all different species with different aims, and they're grounded with nothing to do but wait but they each have very unique stories and kind of are at odds with some of the things that the others do. And they're compelled to confront through just talking to one another and getting to know each other, where they've been, where they might go, and what they are or could be to each other. And it's an incredibly rich story that, you know, kind of continued the idea from the rest of the work that she's done of just community and even when you have disagreements, how you show up for one another, especially in an emergency situation.
Kind of feels like what happened after 9/11, where all the planes were grounded and people just had to like this. I mean, yeah, it's like a truck stop, but also kind of feels like an airport. You got all these people on their way from point A to point B, and you're stuck, and then you have to deal with each other. Does that feel right?
That feels about right, I suppose. Yeah. I mean, with the exception of it was pretty easy to tell what was happening because you had the news in, like
they trusted it
back then.
They trusted the news.
Wow.
in this book.
Oh no! In this book, there is no news.
Okay.
They are left because the communication satellites have all fallen to the earth, and they're remaining shelter in place. They have no contact with the outside world. They don't know what is happening, why it's happening. Some of the people that they've left behind, like one of the characters, her sister is left on a ship in orbit. And she's really concerned about her sister because her sister's got to take her meds, and she doesn't know, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a
right.
That's
so
a rough
like
one.
it's a really fascinating book, and as happens with all four of these books. I know I mentioned that it doesn't follow any particular characters, but sometimes you get characters that show up that were kind of ancillary characters in her early books. So like one of the characters that's dating someone from the first book is a main character in this.
Mm-hmm.
So
and of course there's like familiar species and other things, governmental bodies and other things that are talked about that are consistent throughout all of her books, which is nice because you kind of get to know the galaxy, their world, how it works, how it functions.
It was like Monk and Robot in this universe. Like, is it? She has.
It may be, but given,
universe?
Yeah, I mean, like I don't. There's nothing that connects the two series, though. I imagine that because of the limited scope of Monk and Robot, it's just one moon that has no like connections to other planets that you can kind of hand wave and say, oh yeah, maybe they are all in the same universe.
Yeah,
it's just
humanity has a very specific storyline within her universe, but you could very easily be like, oh yeah, this was some colony ship from hundreds of years ago, and then this is Monk and Robot book is the future of that, and they just haven't had contact with everyone else. And there you go. Like, sure, it can be the same, but there's no hard connections that I'm aware of.
Yeah. So anyhow, now, Devin, Stephen, have you guys read any of the Wayfarers books?
I have read 3 of them, and I have a 4th sitting on my shelf.
Okay.
I was kind of saving it because she's not a super prolific writer. And so, and it is so good that I was like, okay, I've got the 4th one, and I just finished reading the 3rd one. I'm going to wait a while until I get to this one, and I just haven't gotten to it yet.
Right on. How about you, Devin?
I started the first one. It was just at a time when I wasn't really wanting to read fiction, so I read like the first couple chapters. I wasn't like deep into it and put it down. I just wasn't feeling reading any fiction at the time. So I do want to go back and read it, especially after what other stories we've read of hers. I would definitely be interested in reading a longer form story.
The
Right on.
the
Right on.
coolest bit from the first book that I think I've talked about before, but it sticks in my mind was the not lizard people. I forget what they're called. I've got like an image of kind of a dinosaur in my head, but the way their society works, where they are very close, very touchy-feely, get in big piles of fun, if you will.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when the eggs are laid, they are left. Like, okay, we did our business. Here's an egg. I'm out of here. And like, there aren't any strong connections between the immediate parent and child, because and they're left specifically for the elders to raise. And it's because they're like, why would I raise something when I'm not even done learning how to live myself? And I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
so
that's so good.
right.
I
Yeah.
love that
Andrisks are the name
Andrisks.
of that race. It's
Yeah.
funny that wasn't coming to my head, but their native language, Reskitkish, does. Like that name sticks in my head more than Andrisk. Reskitkish.
Yeah. That's
But
super
yeah.
cool. Yeah. Just the whole concept with that species I thought was incredibly original and made sense in the world, like just right, with the amount that the characters are involved, because the Wayfarer's pilot is Andriskian. And they like it warm, and so since they're the pilot and that's a very important job, the parts of the ship are kept very warm to keep them happy. And there's just all of these different analogies towards how we can and perhaps should deal with other cultures. And a lot of it has to do with understanding and having it not be fear-based. And that makes so much sense, to just understand your neighbor instead of fearmonger.
To celebrate their differences.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or rather learn to celebrate your differences, because that's not a natural state. For hunter-gatherers, anything that's different, you'd want to push away. You'd want to, like you fear it. But for civilizations where you have so many differences, it's really infinite diversity and infinite combinations. And, it's us working together actually produces a much better society.
Yeah.
And there you go. You get the Wayfarer series.
Becky Chambers for president. No. What a change that would be. All right. She's an artist. That's different. But great. What a great everything. Let's take a break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking more Becky Chambers. Like Ben mentioned, we're going to conclude our coverage of A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers, the final 2 chapters. And so we'll be right back. Oh, wow. Another free listener. Incredible. Look, I love that you're here, but let's be real. You could be getting so much more. Bonus episodes, unfiltered takes, behind the scenes chaos. All you have to do is join our Patreon at patreon.com/Science Faction Podcast, or don't. But if you don't, just know that somewhere in a parallel universe, a better version of you already has. And we're back.
Heyo.
Devin
And
is back too.
Hello.
There he
I'm
is.
back.
Okay. All right.
You missed your cue.
And a big thank you. And a big thank you to our patrons, Renee and Josh. Thanks a bunch.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, guys, for sticking with us, even though your bonus content has been kind of lacking lately. That's how life is right now. Remember,
I don't know.
We used to have
lacking.
like half-hour conversations about interesting things, and now it's like
Occasionally we still do.
Occasionally,
Steven. It's not.
That's
you know.
true. It's all
Yeah.
It all has to do with time, right? Time
wounds all heals.
You got it. Let's talk about book club and what we're not doing.
Yeah. Sure. Well, we're not reading another book immediately after this, or short story. We're taking a week off, and we'll figure out what we're going to do there, but no need to. And you can take the week off too, dear listener.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
You're welcome.
If you're in America, it's a holiday. So, go for it. If you're elsewhere in the world, then you've got your own Independence Day, and I invite you to celebrate it at that time, because how many countries are there that haven't broken off from Great Britain? Like, not many.
Oh, because they won't let go.
No, I mean they've
been letting go.
There's a lot of countries that all have their own Independence Days from Great Britain.
Yeah.
So good times.
Oh boy. All right.
Yeah.
Well, so we're taking a week off. That's fine. That's great. Next week we'll announce what we're doing for the following week. Send in your suggestions, sciencefactionpodcast@gmail.com. What do you want us to read? I hope it's one of these adult dragon books. What are we doing this week, Ben?
So this week we are wrapping up our coverage of Becky Chambers' book, A Psalm for the Wild Built, the first book in the Monk and Robot series, of which there are only 2 books, my friends.
Yes.
Only 2 books, and this is book 1 so far.
I don't know why I thought it was like a longer series. I thought there were like 4 or 5 books.
Nope, just 2.
No, just the 2.
No problem.
Yeah.
I don't know why I had that in my head, but cool.
And the
Well, in
second
that
book
case,
is
we
about
might as
the
well
length of
knock
the
out the
first.
second one.
Come on.
Well, yeah, that will come maybe after this next week. We will see.
We'll see. But
Yeah.
hey, listeners, if you're coming along with us on this journey, at least if you're listening to us talk about Psalm for the Wild Build, or if you're reading it yourself and you're enjoying it, pick up the next one. It's more of the same. If you're enjoying this, keep enjoying. Don't wait for us. Go down to your local library, check it out. They're short books.
Shout out to my mom who has been reading it along with us and did finish it this week before we recorded. So she's getting to explore and be along with us for the ride this week.
What an interesting book club. It's me, it's Devin, it's Ben, and it's Ben's mom.
Right? Need there be anyone else?
That's it. That's all we need.
That's it.
Just the 4 of us.
And
All
so
right.
chapter 7, or Audible chapter 9,
Yeah.
starts. It's the wild. Their Moscap has agreed to, kind of reluctantly, to take Dex, further into the wilds in order to get to the Hermitage.
Mm-hmm.
But turns out that the wagon can't make it past a particular point. There's a bunch of overgrown stuff on the road, and there's just no way to go farther.
Oh, so then they should just turn around and go back, right?
Well, that is brought up, but Dex is driven. The place ahead was simply the world, as the world had always been and would always be. Dex was presumably a part of it, a product of it, a being inextricably tied to its machinations. And yet, faced with the prospect of entering the world unaided, unaltered, Dex felt hopeless, a turtle on its back, legs waving futilely in the air. And then basically just starts packing a bag.
Yeah, Dex freaks out a little bit and is like, "Oh, I'm gonna go anyway," and grabs a bag, shoves stuff in it that they think might be what they need. They are not thinking clearly. They're thinking like, I gotta go.
However, despite the fact that they think, I'm not going to need an extra change of clothes, packs one anyway. More on that as it develops. But yeah, they get some protein bars, some salted nuts, dried fruit, jerky, some chocolate. And Moscap's just like, this is not what you should be doing. Like,
sibling Dex, this is a bad idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what's out here. I've never been here, says Moscap. And Dex is like, hey, you're not the one needing to make this decision. I'm making the decision. It's not on you.
And Moscap also mentions, like, you shouldn't let what we did before, going into the forest to find that stream, like, that was different than what this is. Like, I knew that area. Mm-hmm. This area, this is all, who knows? danger, Will Robinson. Like, what are you doing?
Right.
And sibling decks
Yeah.
don't care. They do
Right.
not care.
And so, they're scrambling up hillsides. They're having all these blood sucks
Yeah, the blood
sticking
sucks.
sticking to them, and yeah, just having a real time. And eventually there's a rainstorm, like a big old storm that happens, and they can't find any purchase. Moscap is still with them and is like, "Hey, why are you doing this?" Gets right to the heart of it. "Why'd you come out here?" the robot asked. And yeah, "Did something happen to you?" it asks Dex. "No." "Did someone drive you away? Like, you have family in Haydale. Why did you leave? Did they hurt you?" And they're like, "No." "Do they miss you? Do they love you?" And Dex is just like, "Shut up." And right at that point, they fall off of the they lose their grip and skid down the hillside. Moscap wraps its body around Dex, and they crash to the ground. And yeah, Dex has a little bit of a like a cathartic panic attack, I guess you could say.
Yeah, they break down a bit and
Yeah.
try it. And because, I mean, this whole thing is that Dex doesn't even know what they need, right? This is like, I'm not content with what's going on. I find something new and it's cool for a while, and then I'm not content again. I need to find, it seems like they are really just looking for their place, which is so relatable.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we're all
Yeah.
just kind of trying to fit into the place in our society where everything's okay. And sometimes you find that, sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's there for a little bit and then it goes away and you have to adjust and all this stuff. And it's almost like Dex is a bit of a whiner because they have it because everything's fine. Right? Like,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the problem. Everything's fine.
They
so
have the need for something to be wrong.
Maybe.
Maybe.
So this is the point where they find the cave, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They go into the cave, and there's a whole thing about how, like, caves are romanticized in fiction, and it's actually gross and smelly and scary.
That's true.
There's bones in the corner.
Yeah, there's the rib cage.
Yeah.
And
But like I gotta say that honestly, coming to this point in the story recently with me, as we discussed earlier, the book that I just finished and the presentation I had worked on for 6 months, and kind of coming out of that and going like, still nothing quite feels right. Like, I was waiting for this feeling of relief that did not exactly come, and perhaps the problem wasn't all the things that I had agreed to do in the first place. Like, all this is good stuff to do, but like I kind of felt that same feeling that Dex is talking about here. Like, they mentioned they're healthy, they've never gone hungry, and they're loved. They live in a beautiful place. They do meaningful work.
Yeah.
The world that the robots had left is a good world, a beautiful world. They made it a good place. And yet, every day in the city, they woke up hollow and just tired. So they tried something else, packed up everything, learned a brand new thing from scratch, and worked hard for it. They worked really hard and thought that if they could just do that, then they could, and do it well, they'd feel okay. And yet, they still wake up tired, like something's missing. And yeah.
What do you think that's about?
How
Ben?
spoiled? Well, I mean, like, it's. What do you think that's about?
Isn't
That's the
that
question,
mostly everybody?
Probably.
I mean,
maybe not everybody, but at least, like you were saying, everybody at some point in their life, or some maybe it sticks around more than others.
I mean, and this is also probably why it's a common refrain where people are like, "Oh, it was better back when there was more struggle." because then at least there was like
Right.
something to focus on and to deal with constantly. But that is because we don't have to do that, is that we romanticize it.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to go out onto a farm and work from dawn until dusk just to be able to eat. You know, like, we
Right.
can romanticize about that. Like, yeah, I don't have to worry about checking social media every 10
Mhm.
minutes when I'm, you know, out on the farm, you're pulling weeds and milking cows and whatever it is. But that's hard work. That's a whole
Right.
nother thing. And, you know, maybe we should, like Sibling Dex has done, step out of our comfort zone, do something new from scratch, right? Like, the whole story with Dex is that they were not a good tea person. What were they called? A tea monk?
A tea monk.
Yeah, like the first time was a total tragedy, and they had to start from scratch. And, you know, in book terms, we got a 2 years later. But think about that. Working on something until you're good at it for 2 years, and that's all that
Yeah.
you do. That's quite an accomplishment. Dex
Yeah.
should be very, very proud. But now it's
And
just
yet,
benign again. It's just like, oh, I did
yeah,
that. Now
they
what?
could that they have everything they could ever want and have ever asked for, and still wake up in the morning feeling like every day is a slog. And yeah, but that that is not necessarily. I mean, it's the puritanical portion of our society that says, well, salvation is in hard work. Salvation is in, when maybe that's not it for everybody, you know?
Yeah.
Uh,
You know, it's a little bit
and
different for everybody. That's for sure.
right. So
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, that's kind of something I've tried to come to terms with, because I kind of bought into the idea of like capitalism, the puritanical work ethic of, if you're rewarded for your work, and everybody should work because it gives them something to do, basically, or it gives you your life purpose. And trying to get away from that, it's like, yes, those things are not necessarily true. We don't have to craft society in a way that makes that true or required. But we do have to take care of society and have it function properly. So how do you find a balance where you can provide for people who might not want to work as hard, but also do you not give them as much, and do other people who are working as hard have to give up what they're doing to support those people? So I just, how do you
Yeah.
craft society in a way where you're given the freedom, and not just the freedom, like you can make your own choices, but you actually have the opportunity to do something else. Like, if I wanted to go study something different, like art or science, which I would love to do, I can't. I think we've discussed this before. Like, we're locked into our lives the way they are now, because you have to keep doing what you're doing in order to keep it going. We don't have the freedom to just go do whatever we want from a
Well,
financial perspective. Like, we
Right.
yeah,
technically
well,
have the freedom. I could just quit my job and go
yeah,
do whatever I want to do, but
right.
not
But
live the life I can now and do that.
yeah, but and so like recognizing that, hey, the beautiful things that you have from creating a family and the, like all those wonderful things, they they still come with a price. They're not just a thing that we built and then we set it aside and and we have the luxury of moving on if we choose to say that that's the the way we're living our lives, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, it's and
Just
then if you take it a step back, that idea that, well, all of this is likely going to mean nothing in the end,
Yeah,
right?
wait
Yeah,
100
there's
years.
that.
No one's going to remember you.
Yeah.
So what does it matter?
And so and Dex here, once they finally get to the Hermitage, which they get there, it's it's kind of falling apart a little bit, but it still has it's a ruin, and there's plenty still to see there. But Dex asks Moscap, it doesn't bother you, the thought that your life might mean nothing in the end? Moscap says, that's true for all life I've observed. Why would it bother me? Do you not find consciousness alone to be the most exhilarating thing? Here we are in this incomprehensibly large universe on this one tiny moon around this one incidental planet. And all the time this scenario has existed, every component has been recycled over and over and over again into infinitely incredible configurations. And sometimes those configurations are special enough to be able to see the world around them. You and I, we are just atoms that arrange themselves the right way, and we can understand that about them ourselves. Is that not amazing?
Yeah, there's something to be
Right?
said for taking a step back from things that you think are problems and
Yeah.
see the beauty in the world and how amazing it really is. Take that time, take that moment. It's fleeting. Grab it.
Right. And then to your point, Devin, that entire idea of like needing to work the puritanical view of it all. Well, what about the people who have generational wealth that do have a
Exactly.
choice, right? In whether or not they work in order to have the lifestyle that they look for or that they
Well,
would want.
yeah. And
You know?
there's a zillion different things we could talk about with that. And
Yeah.
with the current, move towards, I don't even know what you'd call it. I wouldn't even call it conservatism, because conservatism at least has some internal logic, whether you agree with it or not. But just whatever our country's moving to, the wealthy people at the top who are going to get wealthier are the ones saying, "Oh no, you have to work to, why aren't you working?" Or, you have to have a work
Right.
requirement to get on Medicare or Medicaid. And it's like, oh, why aren't you doing better? Can't you just pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get a
Yeah.
better job and blah, blah, blah. It's like, you didn't have to
And
do
at the same
that.
time,
Mhm.
yeah, and then at the same time, they're creating situations where that
You create the
like they
situations that make that
that
impossible.
make it impossible for the working person.
You didn't
Yeah,
have to do
like
that. You don't
yeah,
understand what people are going through or what they have to deal with in order
yeah.
to live their lives. It's like,
It's
yeah. So those,
Eat the rich.
and
I'll say it. It's ridiculous.
yeah. So I mean, like, yeah, how refreshing it is to get this view of this society in this book that does not have those problems, yet still has people in it that wrestle with the same like questions of
yeah.
purpose
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
we
Because
do.
no matter what, if you fixed all those things, if we had a utopia, people would still feel that way. I mean, they'd have the
Yeah.
freedom to explore and try to maybe fulfill it in some way, but that's not necessarily going to happen, because ultimately it might not even be possible.
Well, I mean, there
Right.
there was a time in our society, and I don't know if this is just something from TV and movies or if it ever really happened, how they say it happened, but what about like, okay, I did college, now it's time to take a year off and figure out what I want to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, what about like that's kind of what Dex is doing here. They've done some work, they've figured out what they like to do, what they don't like to do, but there's still some things they need to work out, and they need time to do it. They need to go out in the world, they need to see different things, they need to figure it out. And that's part of the human condition, man, to like
Yeah.
get out of your comfort zone, look at how other people live, figure out how you fit into everything, and make some decisions. And we don't have that anymore. It is
Mm.
go, 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 die is what we've
Like,
got
you're
right
not
now.
going to find, there is no meaning to life. So taking the time to do that doesn't mean you're going to find the ultimate meaning to life, because it doesn't exist, or at least I don't think it exists. But it could help you accept that that doesn't exist and find, I
Find your personal
find
meaning.
meaning yourself. I hate to say it like that, but it's more about learning to accept the way the world is, as opposed to finding something that isn't there.
Yeah. Yeah. All of that. Exactly.
And I think I've mentioned this a million times, but absurdism, Albert Camus, Stranger and the Myth of Sisyphus, this is basically his philosophy. It's nothing matters, so that's awesome. Do what you want with your
Right.
life, because you exist.
Mhm.
Don't kill yourself. Don't necessarily turn to religion. I mean, you can, but it's a false sense of security. Just accept the absurd reality for what it is. And this is like an armchair philosopher interpretation of it, because of course it's way more complicated than that. But you can be happy with your life if you accept the fact that it's meaningless, because then you get to do what you want. There's no, not that there's no consequences, you don't want to be immoral, but you don't have to worry about like these ultimate consequences. You get to try new things, and if it doesn't work, then so what? You tried it. Like, have fun.
Right. Exactly. And
YOLO, man.
Yeah. Yeah. YOLO. Like, how great is it to have the safety net of time, right? To just be able to, hey, I'm going to take some time. I'm going to figure it out for myself. And that's just not something that we have anymore. And that's unfortunate.
Whether we do or not may be a matter of perspective, right? It may be a matter of what we sacrifice.
It's a matter of the degree of consequence, where the consequence used to be like, I'm going to save a couple $100 and then do this. And now it's like, I would have to save tens of thousands of dollars to be able to do this. And as we know, dollars equals time equals our lives. So we have to spend way more of our lives to try and figure out our lives. It's broken. It's all broken. Anyways.
Yeah.
Soapbox time's over. Isn't this a great book, you guys? Like, no, this is really, this is why science fiction is so great, because we can look into these worlds that are different from ours, that ask the same questions that we could be asking in our own world, and we can see a version of it, see how things could be, see how things would be impossible to be, but it's so cool to see it anyway. And Becky Chambers, I think, does a great job at telling these fantastical stories, but still have them so linked to humanity in a very understandable way. Super interesting, super cool.
Yeah. And the book kind of concludes with Dex, after having collapsed and taken a nice nap, very long nap at the Hermitage. Moscap serves them some tea.
Yeah.
And Dex gets the opportunity to have their kind of take something that they give all the time, and sure enough, as the robot poured, sibling Dex drank. In the wilds outside, the sun set and crickets began to sing.
They found the crickets. Closure, full circle.
Closure.
And they also, Dex also mentions, and this is the hook into the next book of like, okay, well, I think we should go to this town first. And that's kind of the first time that Dex has agreed to travel with Moscap to humans to figure things out. And that's pretty exciting. It's exciting to see where it goes. All right. Well, that's it for the book club. How many thumbs you giving this thing, Ben?
Oh, I mean, any thumbs I can borrow, I'll add to my 2 thumbs.
Are you living on borrowed thumbs?
Show me those thumbs.
Give me those thumbs. It's my thumbs now.
I like those thumbs.
Ben, I already said Ben. Devin, what do you think? How would you rate this book in the pantheon of books?
The pantheon of books?
Yeah. If you all books considered equal, how good is this book? No, what did you think of the book, man? As a whole, what do you think?
I enjoyed it. I thought it did. Let's see.
Okay,
I liked it. It was
email.
fun to read. It was easy to read. I did like the ideas it brought up. I mean, they're pretty common ideas, like, for anybody interested in that kind of stuff, but kind of put that discussion in a fun, accessible way. So yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I would recommend it to people.
Yeah. What I really thought was cool about this book is it has all of these really complex ideas about how life could be lived, but the way it presents it is in such a calm. I thought I muted that. Sorry, guys. Because it's been over an hour. I only muted it for an hour. Mute again. Sorry. It's gonna be in the recording now. What was I saying? The book. It's this calm and meditative way it's presented, and it's not it's not textbook. It's not boring. Well, it could talking about these things could be incredibly boring, but it's not. And like Devin says, it's fun. You got a robot running around named Moscap. Like, that's fun. You've got this whole solar punk society going on of these, how that stuff works. And you see way more of that in the second book, because they travel, spoilers, they travel among the different towns and people and all that stuff. And so you get to see more, world building and how these different societies deal with not having a certain level of technology around, right? They used to have robots and now they don't. And how do they deal with that? It's fantastic. It's just a great little book, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. And I think that maybe that's one of the biggest things it's got going for it. It's like 200 pages or something. It's a relatively short book with a lot of really complicated ideas distilled in just the right way, and I really enjoyed that about it.
Yeah. It's more, it's kind of spiritual. Right? In a way, right?
Well, it is a psalm, whatever that means.
It's a psalm.
What is a psalm? I don't even know what that is.
What is a psalm?
It's like a poem. I mean, I know them only referenced in the Bible, really. I don't know if they can be just any religious poem or song, but I know it's specifically a biblical thing.
The term psalm comes from the Greek word meaning songs of praise.
Okay, so a psalm for the wild built would be praise for things built in the wild, which would be the natural world.
Oh yeah, which would be both Dex and Moscap.
It would be everything. Praise for things that are alive.
Right?
Pro-life.
Yeah.
This book, the title is just pro-life. Is what the title is.
that has a lot of connotations there.
It certainly does.
But
I was at a I didn't want to bring this up because it was too much to talk about, but really quickly, we went to a rally yesterday for Beto O'Rourke. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He ran for president in 2020, ran for Senate in Texas in 2020. Or no, I also in 2020 because he didn't win the primary, and then he ran for Texas governor in 2022 and didn't win. But anyway, he's still out there doing stuff. But one of the things that was talked about at the rally was taking back the phrase pro-life and being like, Republicans are not pro-life. They don't support, education, childcare, all the things that when you're alive are important to keeping you alive and those types of things. So the phrase pro-life, as Stephen, as you just used it, being, life is great. Let's be pro-life, but that has nothing to do with abortion.
Exactly. Right. It doesn't. Wow, his Wikipedia page is long. Anyways, okay. Well, you went. That's cool, man. I guess. Was it good?
That was fun, and there were a lot of people showed up. It was at a conference center at a hotel, and it was standing room only. By the time we got there, it was packed.
Nice.
So good to know. Again, like the No Kings rally, there's plenty of people who don't agree with Trump and the current Republicans here. So
well, that's. I mean, for being in Texas, that's incredible. That things are moving in that direction.
I saw a clip of an interview with a commentator. I forgot who it was, but he was a political science guy. He was talking about how the pendulum in politics, or in analogizing it to a pendulum, is that pendulums don't swing back and stay in the center. They swing and go all the way over to the other side. And so he's like, we're looking forward to an AOE COE. AOE COE is an acronym used in my work a lot, and so now I'm trying to say AOC, and I accidentally said AOC. So we're looking at a presidency from someone who's very liberal in the future, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, all the fingers crossed.
Anything can happen. Anything can happen, but that's why I'm I have this feeling of okay, just wait it out 4 years. Hopefully, only 2 years we can get Senate and the House back to liberal control and stop a lot of what Trump's doing. So maybe only 2 years, but 4 years for sure. Trump's gone, hopefully forever. But there's also the chance that it's another 4 years with someone, just as dumb. So hopefully it won't be there. I'd say there's a really good chance it's not going to be, but it's not. It might not just be another 4 years.
I never thought I'd be like, I just want normal politicians again. Like, I don't want a power-hungry, greedy little man in charge of things anymore. Can we just get back to just regular old politics that I don't have to pay too much attention to? Like, I don't have to look at my phone first thing in the morning, like going, what now? What thing? What existential dread do I have to deal with that I have no control over and can't deal with? But yet it will have perhaps could have ramifications for the future of the world. Like every morning. Like, come on. We don't need that in our lives. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyways, I've got nothing to add to that because there is nothing. We're trapped. We're all trapped. But that's fine. All right.
And on that note, well, I mean, like, okay, sorry. Bringing it back to the thing, or to the book here. You're an animal, Sibling Dex. You are not separate or other. You're an animal, and animals have no purpose. Nothing has a purpose. The world simply is. If you want to do things that are meaningful to others, fine, good, so do I. But if I wanted to crawl into a cave and watch stalagmites with Frost Frog for the remainder of my days, that would also be fine and good. You keep asking why your work is not enough, and I don't know how to answer that, because it is enough to exist in the world and marvel at it. You don't need to justify that or earn it. You are allowed to just live. That is all most animals do.
All right. I'm just going to live for a while then.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Try to add awe to your life. Notice things.
I just want to live, man. I just want to live. Devin, do you have any final thoughts?
No.
I thought you were gearing up for something there, but that's okay.
No.
Ben, any last words?
Yeah, I was shocked to find that one of my friends had an AI girlfriend. He told me he was dating a model.
Good night, everybody.
This has been the Science Faction Podcast. Tweet to the host at SciFact Podcast. Email them at sciencefactionpodcast@gmail.com and visit sciencefactionpodcast.com for more episodes.